not too long ago, I decided to transition from daily driving a backpack to a tote bag. And given how surprisingly seamless the whole transition was, I thought it would be interesting for me to showcase my new everyday carry for both work and travel. In case you are wondering what the main motivation behind this entire switch was, well, let's just say that I live in the Philippines, and boy does it get pretty hot over here. So switching things up from something that doubles as a back warmer to a lighter, breezier, and hopefully as a functional alternative might just be the right move for me to make. Anyway, without any further delay, let's go and have a look. Kicking things off with the smartphone that I use, I'm currently rocking Google's Pixel 7a. I used to be in Apple's ecosystem for a good chunk of pre-pandemic until 2023, but then realized I didn't really have any reason to stay. I don't really use iMessage all that much, and when it comes to cloud storage, Google Drive is my go-to choice. The phone itself does a pretty decent job for my day-to-day use, and in terms of battery life, it's alright. It's enough to last me throughout the day on a single charge. I do have to mention though that the image output you can get from this smartphone is rather spectacular for its asking price. While I do have to admit that Apple is still king when it comes to smartphone video recording, I much prefer having a dedicated camera taking photos and videos instead. As someone who travels from time to time, I'm not really a fan of draining out the juice of the same device I use Google Maps with. And in case you are wondering what this case is, it's actually the brand's grip case. Moving on to the power bank that I use, I currently have this Anker MagGo 533 charger. As I mentioned, I used to be in the Apple ecosystem, so MagSafe, but it has a rated capacity of 10,000 milliamperes and can do both wired and wireless charging. It even has MagSafe. But I'll probably have this replaced with something with a built-in cable instead, as I'm not really a fan of wireless charging. It tends to heat up my old iPhone, which then leads to slower charging speeds. Convenient on paper, sure, but personally it's not something I'd recommend over wired charging. Unless you're very much into MagSafe, of course. Now let's talk about the tech pouch, which honestly the part I'm most excited about. So this is the Elecom BMA GP14BK. Frankly speaking, I'd consider this to be my favorite purchase of the year. While yes, it isn't as sleek as pricier alternatives out there, it still does a job pretty well. And thankfully, it's also available for purchase over at Amazon. As for what's inside, we have here a PA-B7 GAN charger from Oki. It's essentially the only charger I use to power up all my tech, including my laptop. Two external SSDs, both within an Orico enclosure, a USB 4 cable which I use to run an eGPU setup at home, a 100-watt C2C cable from Oki, a Field Notes notebook that I don't really use along with my book of receipts. Moving on to the zippered compartment, we have here a wristwatch. While I don't really wear it that much, I prefer to have one ready just in case I get caught up in a fancier event and such. More cables, one C2A and one short C2C, backup debit cards, and a couple of headache and fever meds. So moving on to what's inside the bag itself, we have here a Razer Orochi V2 wireless mouse and this umbrella that I bought from a random family mart in Osaka. What makes this umbrella extra special is how it only weighs 73 grams. I mean, sure, its small size also translates to minimum coverage, but as long as it can take me from point A to point B without getting my belongings drenched, I'm all good with that. So as I previously stated, I recently moved away from Apple's ecosystem back to an Android plus Windows setup, and this is what I got to replace my MacBook Air. This is the Lenovo IdeaPad 5 Pro 14. Well, not exactly. It's actually an imported model that goes by the name of, which is essentially the same laptop but is exclusively sold in China. Why import, you may ask? Well, the thing is, I can only get this laptop with 16 gigabytes of RAM coming from where I'm at. Given that you can't really upgrade a laptop with soldered RAM, I had to import a 32 gigabyte variant. So moving on with the specs, it's currently rocking AMD's 8845HS, 32 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM, and a larger than the usual 83 watt-hour battery. Weighing at 1.46 kilograms, it's definitely not the lightest 14-incher out there, but I'm not too nitpicky about it. So I've been using this laptop for almost 4 months now as my work and play machine, and so far I'm pretty satisfied with how it performs, even on battery. Using its default power profile, it can last for about 7 to 8 hours on a single charge with lighter workloads, and around 2 to 4 hours when I edit videos or play games with it. For the actual bag itself, the one I ended up using throughout a good chunk of the year is this Bellroy Tokyo Tote 2nd edition. Initially, I was feeling a bit skeptical given that objectively, backpacks just offer way more space than totes. However, I was left pleasantly surprised as it was able to hold up all the stuff I carry around with me while still leaving a bit more space for me to work around with. The bag's exterior is made out of waterproof fabric that has a bit of a rough texture to it. Inside, we have what Bellroy calls pop pockets. It can hold water bottles, umbrellas, and even my tech pouch in its entirety. We also have a lightly padded laptop compartment which can hold up to a 13-inch laptop. Lastly, we have here a front pocket that doesn't really have any organization of any sorts. I usually use this pocket for receipts, echo bags for groceries, loose change, and such. That's basically it for my updated everyday carry. I may have gone a bit overboard with the cables, but hey, everything that's in here I consider essential, and to me, that's what matters the most.